All right, welcome everybody to today's episode of the Seven Figures Club podcast. Today, we have a remarkable guest with us. We have Kathy FETTKE. She and her husband, Rich, are the co-founders of Real Wealth Network. And this is a network that has changed a lot of people's lives for the better over the last decade plus. Kathy specializes in teaching people how to build multi-million-dollar real estate portfolios through creative finance and planning. She is passionate about researching and then sharing the most important information about real estate, market cycles, and the economy. She is author of the #1 bestseller, Retire Rich with Rentals. And Kathy's also a frequent guest expert on such media as CNN, CNBC, Fox News, NPR, and CBS Market Watch. Kathy, we're excited to have you on the show.
There are over 32 million businesses in the U.S., and over 90% of them will never break seven figures in annual sales. So how do we as entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs break into that seven figures club? This podcast will relentlessly share the secrets, strategies, and tactics I've used to create 3 multi-seven figures businesses and bring in even more successful entrepreneurs than me to share their inspirational stories and tactics to success. You can create your dream business and life right now. So buckle up and let's go.
Thank you so much.
So Kathy, I was reading through a little bit of your and Rich's story, and it sounded like 13 years ago, something crazy happened. That's usually what helps us all make a massive change in our life. What happened to you and Rich 13 years ago that kind of changed everything for you?
Yeah, I mean, we were really living the dream. He had just come out with this book called Extreme Success. We had 2 little kids. We bought our first house. It's actually been 17 years now, so I got to update my bio there. But he was on a book tour for his new book and noticed a freckle. He's a redhead with a lot of freckles, so I don't know how he noticed this particular one, but he went and got it checked. It turned out to be melanoma. They did more research and they did all these tests and thought it had spread to his liver. And the doctor literally said to him, if this is true, then you've got a few months to live. The medicine wasn't what it is today. It's obviously evolved a lot since then. So Rich made this mistake of going online and looking up melanoma, and it was very deadly. And so it was terrifying. Here we were at the top of our game, and bam, it felt like starting over. So much of the money we had saved, we did what we were told. We put 10% of our money into emergency savings, 10% into like vacation fund, 10% into investing. But that goes real fast when you have a terminal illness. Fortunately, fast forward to today, he's healthy, he's fine. We do get him checked regularly to make sure, because he's still out in the sun all the time. But but it was that moment.
So the doctor misdiagnosed that, it sounds like, huh?
Maybe, but they did some treatment and whatever it is, they cut a lot of it out. And yeah. So he is fine. I mean, he has to be checking on it regularly because,
So what did you guys change financially? Because it sounds like this crazy thing's happening. Fortunately, everything worked out and he's in good health. God bless him. But now what? Now, what did you guys do? Because you started to make some really big financial changes too, in terms of your mindset and what you guys had been told.
Absolutely. It was such a shock. I refused to believe that the doctor, I refused to believe it. But so I just thought, well, how can I at least take this burden off of him? He had been the breadwinner. I came from a generation where that was kind of the case, and I had always had a job. I had worked in the news, actually in the media as a reporter for many years, but, quite honestly, it doesn't make that much money when you're not the main anchor person, so my money just paid for our extras, our vacations and our dinners and stuff. So all of a sudden I was stepping into main breadwinner, wanting him to, if the doctor was right, let him have the best 6 months of his life. Again, we didn't let our minds go there. That's so important in everything, to just stay focused on the prize, stay focused on the goal, perfect 100%. Health, great wealth, lots of love, all the things you want, focus on that. Don't let your energy go to anything else than what you truly want. So that's what we did. And I had been in the news, as I said. I quit that when I had my second child because it was just too much. And I really had become a stay-at-home mom. But I kept this little radio show on the weekends that no one listened to because it was really not that good. It was just me sort of blabbering. But all of a sudden I had a focus, and it was like, how do I make money? And not just money. I still wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I still wanted to raise these kids. So it was like, how do I make money passively? I'd heard this thing. I thought maybe it's real. One way to find out, I'm just going to start interviewing people. And that's what I did. I had this platform, this little radio show, and I just started interviewing people who had created what I wanted, which was assets that just make money for you, right? It's like someone is out there doing that. Why can't I? And that's what I started, the Real Wealth Show many years ago, just finding out this little secret that a certain group of people understood. And still today, here we are, fast forward, there's still a very small group of people that really understand that concept. So
there is, but since that day, you guys now grown to, is it 50,000 plus members in your community?
Yes, we started a little network. We call it the Real Wealth Network, because at the time, this was kind of before YouTube, before podcasts.
Yeah.
I was on the radio, and any kind of real estate education was either in books, which is great, but late night TV or these little real estate clubs where you would go and try to learn about real estate, but then someone would try to sell you something and you'd run to the back of the room and buy it and then find out that didn't really get you where you wanted to be. I mean, maybe 1% of that group would, but we just thought, well, people need to know this information. So we started the Real Wealth Network and brought in these people I would interview into meetings where people could meet them. And it was shocking how willing successful people were to share their secrets. We didn't sell anything. It was just literally, let's learn this together. And since then, yeah, it's, I think we're at 57,000 members now. But the real game changer on that was when I had Robert Kiyosaki on, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You know,
okay.
Got to read that book, right? This was back in
Get those 4 quadrants going. That's right.
You got to do it. You got to read it. So he said, you know, I just said, what are you doing? You know, how are you creating passive income? You know, Mr. Cash Flow guy. And he said he had bought a lot of properties in California because he could see the demographics there and the job growth and so forth. But this was, again, 2005, and prices had nearly doubled, you know, in just a few years. And he said, it's not sustainable. These loans, you know, we know the story. These loans are not good loans. People are they're liar
Wow.
loans.
He was saying that in 2005.
Yeah, 2005.
Wow. He had great foresight.
You know, it in retrospect, it wasn't too hard to figure out if you paid attention, because
it shouldn't have been, but not very many people did.
Not very many people, but they knew exactly when these loans would reset. They knew. And he, you know, all you had to do was look it up. And so he knew that it was going to kind of start around 2006, but really hit hard in 2008 and 2009. Yeah. So he basically said on the show, I sold everything in California and I 1031 exchanged it to Texas, where they didn't have so many crazy loans, had very strict lending laws there.
Yes, that's true.
And it was cheap, you know, and the jobs were going there. So you had this combination of all these jobs were moving there because of the tax benefits for businesses. And then all the people went to get those jobs. And yet real estate hadn't caught up, which is something we kind of talked about before the show, is it takes a while to build. You know, you can't just like throw 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 homes, get them built overnight. It doesn't work that way. When you had all these jobs going to Texas, you know, property was still cheap. But at the time, people thought, oh, nothing's ever going to happen in Texas. So he was very, again, like you said, he had so much foresight on this. And we thought, well, if it's good enough for Robert Kiyosaki, it's good enough for us. So Rich and I flew to Dallas.
And were you guys living in California at that time? Or okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it didn't make sense. Like I agreed with him. Like I can't find anything that cash flows. The only kind of cash flow that we knew in California was the negative variety. Like,
no question.
There's plenty of cash flows.
It was hope the property keeps appreciating, but you're going to not make any money on the rental. In fact, you're going to lose money.
You're going to feed your property. It's going to cost you to own it. And your hope is that you'll make a bunch of money in the end.
Yeah.
But what he saw was that, no, you're going to feed this property negative. It's going to cost you to own it, and it's going to lose money and value.
Oh.
So it's like, so we did it. And this was back when loans were like 0% down for investor loans.
Yeah.
Unlimited. So we went to Dallas and bought 5 properties in one weekend. They were $140,000 in Rockwall, Texas, which was just the cutest little town. We knew a new freeway was coming in.
Kathy, how much are those homes worth now?
Probably 400, about 400.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Dallas has just grown like crazy for the last decade. That's amazing.
It was really just like, it was the opportunity like you're providing today. I was doing then, which was just finding out what people are doing who know what they're doing, right? So I just did what he did. If it's good enough for Robert Kiyosaki, it's good enough for me. Then we went back about 5 more, and then 5 more after that. Again, it was no money down back then. It was a little bit easier to do. But, people can do it today. But I talked about it on the Real Well show, and suddenly we had our phones blowing up with people saying, I want to do that. Show me how to do that. So we gave them our, property manager information and the real estate agent. And I was like, wait a minute, there's got to be a way to make a business out of this. And so I got my real estate license, and we created a referral-based business where we would find really good real estate agents in these different hot markets and just do a co-broker situation. That's what
ingenious
happened.
So as we kind of rewind and synthesize the formula you guys created, and this is the mistake that so many people make, is they try to recreate the wheel, but you said, let's just go reach out to the people who are already doing what we want to do and doing it successfully. In your case, you were looking for people who were making passive income, and how were they doing it? And it looked like a lot of them were doing it different real estate property and opportunities. And then you got involved with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. You ask him what he's doing, and then you just follow what the smart money is doing and look at the results that you've created. And now you've created this entire network. And that's a big lesson that I think everybody listening and trying to learn is follow the people who have already, created the path that you want to, and you can do it. And now you've been doing that for your 57,000 members. And so you guys started out with 15 rental properties, and they were all single family homes. Is that right?
Yeah. Mostly, I mean, a few duplexes in there. And,
Okay.
And then we took the house that we owned. This is kind of how it all started, kind of going back to that horrible moment where somebody tells you your husband's going to die. No one should ever say that, by the way. Never. No one should ever tell you when you're going to die.
Oh yeah, they don't.
But anyway, Rich was like, nope, I'm not going to believe that. And that was the wiser choice. Anyway, at the time we were like, well, how do we make money? And, because he wasn't going to work 10 hours, 12 hours a day like he had been. He was like, no, I'll do that. Yeah. You enjoy your life. So one of the ways that we did is we took this house we bought, which we totally overbought. We had a $4,000 a month mortgage payment back then. It was a lot. And it was like, we did the typical American thing. We went way bigger than we should have, but it was so big. It was great because then we just kind of carved it up. We turned the in-law suite into a unit, and we rented that out. We turned the office. It had a separate office. We put a little bathroom and a little tiny kitchenette in there, rented that out. And then our master bedroom had a separate entrance and a huge walk-in closet. So we put a little kitchenette in there, and we turned that. So we turned the whole thing into a fourplex. Wow. We went and put our master bedroom in the playroom, and we had so much money coming in from those 3 rentals that we lived there for free. But we got the main part of the house, which was really the nicest part of the house. And so it was just a way to experience what passive income feels like. Like, we provided something to these people, a nice place to live, and it's covering our mortgage. This is amazing. What a concept. Well, let's do more of that.
That is amazing. And so then was the strategy, did it evolve? Was it buy and hold and earn the cash flow and write off the depreciation and the mortgage interest? Or was there a next step where you got to a point where, all right, let's liquidate some of these and go to step two? What was the next step in this passive income game that you were playing?
Well, as I was learning, it's like, first you got to figure out what are your expenses, can I not get out of, like, what's mandatory expenses, and what, can I cut back on? So that was first and foremost. Like, we bought this house, we got to keep this house. So, look, we can carve it up and rent out rooms and, keep, like, we made it all separate. It was like a fourplex. Nobody came into our space. But number one, we got our mortgage covered. Now, what about the other expenses? What do we do about those? And that's where you have to find ways to create money now. If you don't have a lot of money, it's hard to create passive income from real estate. So you got to be able to make money. What I just realized is I've got to create some sort of value now. And the only way I really knew how to do that was my radio show. So I thought, I'm creating all this value. I'm interviewing all these multimillionaires. They're teaching people their secrets. I want money for that. So then I started dialing for dollars, and I just got sponsors. And that covered the rest of our, the expenses that we had. And
so was it a podcast, or how was your radio show getting distribution, or how did you do that?
It was just a San Francisco show. And I just would call people. I went down the list. I thought, okay, I'm focused on passive income. What sponsor could benefit? And I went down the list. I would phone book back then. And I just called every business, and it was awful. It was literally like, no, we spent our marketing money. No, nobody really wants to just hand you a check. That's important to understand. They want.
Tell us about your first sale. How did you
So my first sale, I heard so many no's. By the way, that you get really good the more you do it, the better you get. Yes, you do. And I got a whole lot of no's, but every time you hear a no, you hear their excuse. So you've got to overcome that excuse on the next call. So by the 100th call or whatever, I was like, okay, what's this next person going to not be able to turn down? Like, they're going to be so excited. They're going to be a full capitalized yes, and it was like, oh, I know. I pick up the phone. I call a mortgage broker, because they were the ones making all the money back then, and they were on every single ad. I'm like, why can't I have my mortgage broker sponsor? So I called this one, and I said, this is Kathy FETTKE. I'm the host of The Real Wealth Show, and I'd like to know if you'd like me to make you a star. He's like, yeah. Like, great. I am going to feature you, not just as a sponsor, but as a co-host. We're going to do amazing segments on why people should get mortgages to build wealth. He's like, oh my gosh, that's what I do. And he's like, come meet me. So I went to meet him, and I said, tell me about your clients. What are they, how are they building wealth? And he's like, well, some are flipping, and some are buying houses and renovating them, living them for 2 years and selling them and getting all the gain tax free. He's explaining all these things. And I'm like, your clients are fascinating. Let's just interview them. And here's how much that's going to cost. And he wrote the check that day.
And that was so that was your mortgage broker then?
It was just some guy I found in the phone book, but then.
So you're just basically cold calling. You just closed on a cold call, but you created value because you had a platform. And that's something one of my mentors, Russell Brunson, always talks about, is when you build that platform, now all of a sudden, if you stick to that platform for a year, magic happens. And that's what you did. But I love how you were cold calling. And how many no's do you think you had to get before you got to that yes?
I mean, it was, when you.
How many days?
When you're desperate, you do desperate things. I would say for days. But each I
love that story. How many people gave up after an hour? How many people gave up for sure after a day? But you kept going.
I was literally taking
that's
my
what makes your story so great.
I was taking my kids to garage sales to buy them clothes, and I was budgeting $2 a day meals. Like, it was desperation. It really was like, I'm going to make this happen. I know I hear these people on the radio I know they have an advertising budget. Why aren't they advertising with me? And then when I finally got this guy, I was like, okay, I'm going to make him a raving customer. And we interviewed his most successful clients, explained exactly how they were using these mortgages to, like I said, to flip homes, to, to buy and hold, to burn out, like all the things that there weren't names for them back then. But one by one, we'd interview them. So guess what? Our phones were ringing off the hook. He got more business than he could handle. He's like, this is incredible. Why don't you get your license and take some of these, become a mortgage broker, work for me and take some of these loans. So I did. I got my license like the next month. I crammed for it, got it. And I was overnight one of the busiest mortgage brokers because of all this sort of lead flow we got.
And so that was in Northern California. And then how long did you do that before you made the move to Texas?
Well, I always was living in California. My very first loan, I mean, you're talking about, like, my very first loan was somebody who heard me on the radio, came in. He said, I want to do what you did. I want to refi my $1 million home. And it was like, back then, it was like, okay, here, fill this out. Okay, great. I'll turn it in. I made $10,000 because it was 1%.
Yeah.
I made $10,000. I could have charged 3 points and made 30,000, but I wanted to give him a good rate and have a raving client. So $10,000, I was happy. And then, he was going to take the money and the cash out refi and go buy a bunch of houses in Texas. So we stayed in California, and that became our platform.
I see. So then the strategy was to get the money, not necessarily move, but hey, there's better opportunities in Texas. And then you started getting those rentals, and then you're teaching other people how to do it, but you're providing the tools and the financing. And
that's exactly it. It was like, here is how we've done it. We're going to share it all with you. Here's the lender we used. Oh, that's me. Here's the agent that we used in Texas. And, again, that would be a broker to broker relationship with us. So we would also make money, but it had to be a really great broker, right? And Texas who understood it. So I had to train the real estate agents because they didn't necessarily know what to look for in a good rental. Yeah. And then we needed to have a really good property manager in place, really good insurance, a great LLC guy. So it's like we were able to become this one-stop shop for people who live in California. And we're very clear that nothing in California made sense, but they didn't want to move. They had to understand and learn how to invest somewhere else out of state, and manage it well when they didn't live there.
So now, was all that, that was before the recession of 08, 09 then, yeah?
Yeah.
So now what happens when that recession hits and values are struggling and things aren't selling? Then how did you pivot? How did you get through that?
Well, fortunately, we helped a lot of people avoid complete and total disaster, because I'll give you one example. One woman she came to us, she heard me again on the radio and then on my podcast when it became a podcast. And she had 3 properties in Stockton, California in 2007. And they were like $400,000 each. They were just dumps. They were just always in need of repair, old, dilapidated. They rented for $1,200 each. Mm-hmm. And so she's like, I heard you on the radio and you said real estate is the key to passive income. It's been nothing like that for me. And I said, well, because look, you have these old properties that are always breaking down. You're the property manager. You're not good at that. She wasn't. And you're not making any money, but if we helped you sell those, that's a $1.2 million portfolio. We can get you into like 8 homes in Dallas, and there'll be very nice newish homes. You won't have to, have all those repairs. So she did it. She sold those 3 homes in Stockton. She bought 8 in the little neighborhood we were in Dallas. She quintupled her cash flow. She quit her job and was able to retire, which is why she had originally bought real estate. And a year and a half later, the market collapsed and her California properties were worth about $75,000 each.
They went from 400 to 75.
Stockton was the worst hit in the country.
Wow.
because there was so much Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area money trying to find yield, trying to find deals. So they were going to Stockton, way overpaying. And when the market collapsed, it was, so she avoided complete catastrophe. And then and then those properties she bought in Dallas only increased. So the areas that we helped people buy in did really well. So we kind of kept going, but then I realized, wow, there's a lot of opportunity. So I just got on a plane and started going to all the areas that seemed to be hit the hardest, like Tampa, Orlando, Cleveland, Indianapolis. We were taking, I'll tell you what happened. Rich, my husband, took my radio show, and right when podcast became a thing, I think it was, it was like no one even knew what that word was. He took my show and he just uploaded. He goes, "Oh, honey, I just put you on this new thing called a podcast, your San Francisco show." I was like, "Oh, cool." The next day I had listeners in 27 countries. And one of those countries, I know, he was like, he's brilliant in the technology realm. So one of those listeners was in Australia, and Australia didn't have, like, basically during our crash, their dollar doubled. And they didn't have the downturn. So they had all this money. Their money was worth way more. So I got flown out to Australia to meet like a room full of 1,000 investors going, "Here's money, please buy me real estate." And I was like, I don't do that, but I should. So then they came out. I'd have bus loads of 50 Australians. We'd go cruising all through America. I'd help them buy properties.
And so what kind of properties would you help them buy?
Oh my gosh, we were buying $30,000 homes in Kansas City and Indianapolis and Cleveland. Those are probably worth 4 times that today.
And right off the bat, when a home's that cheap, what was the worst case? They were already cash flowing from day one, right?
It was a hard time. Most were fine, but those were the days when you'd have a street of just foreclosure after foreclosure after foreclosure.
Yeah, for sure.
Just decimated. And so it took a while to turn those neighborhoods around. So you might think you had a good tenant, but it was tough. So they had to kind of work with that, knowing that we're going into a war zone, really. It's like, so I just let them, they're coming in with cash. So like, they don't get rent for a little bit. So what, we were cleaning up these neighborhoods, which is what we would literally come into these neighborhoods with bus loads of Australians just loaded with cash. We would just buy every single house, fix them up, and restore these neighborhoods to what they had been. But they were renters instead of owners, right? So somehow Goldman Sachs heard about that, and I won this award in 2012, one of the top most intriguing entrepreneurs for doing this. And I was in a room with 100 other people, including Elon Musk and the founders of Uber, and didn't even know what Uber was at the time, but it was like, oh yeah, we decided, we thought it'd be, jumping people's cars. We were tired of waiting for taxis. So anyway, it was amazing. It was like,
that's unbelievable. So what award show was that?
It was just Goldman Sachs
it was Goldman Sachs. Okay.
Yeah. I got a letter from Elon Musk, from Lloyd Blankfein, the CEO
of Goldman Sachs. Yeah.
And I was supposed to go to this 3-day all expenses paid awards thing. And I was like, there's something to this. Can't be the story. And I threw it away. My daughter, who was interning for me at the time, she was in business school, pulls it out of the garbage. She goes, "Mom, this is signed by Lloyd Blankfein. Just at least call him back." I'm like, "Oh, I'm sure it's a scam." But I call and they're like, no, we just want to award you for helping fix America's housing situation. And okay. So I went and I pull up in my little Prius and get out of the car, and I'm greeted with a glass of champagne and a plate of strawberries, and this man with this, all these men with suits are there, and like, I don't know why I'm here. Goldman Sachs, I kind of feel like they caused this whole meltdown. And then the name tag flips and it's Lloyd, "Oh, hi, yeah." And he goes, "Well, yeah, maybe." Anyway.
We might have been partly to blame, but we're helping. We're part of the solution now.
We're part of the solution. Yeah.
That's unbelievable. So that's like in 2012, and then how long did you keep on, going out there and helping these Australian folks just buy single families in America?
Well, as America recovered, so did our dollar. So it became kind of less interesting to the Australians, but more interesting to Americans who are now seeing prices, seeing us recover. But it was right around then also that we discovered syndications. It was kind of before people were doing that. I didn't even know what it was. And
so for our audience listening and unsure of what syndication means, what does syndication mean in the real estate world?
It is when a group of investors come together and invest in something much bigger with a manager who is basically the operator of that deal. So let's say you want to be passive, you don't want to go fix houses, you might invest in somebody who does, and you split the profit or whatever. So a developer listened to the show again, that show did change.
Once again, the platform paying dividends.
The platform, it grew faster than me. And so this developer says, look, I understand you have a large audience now. We can buy land for almost nothing. Back in 2012, no one was buying land. It was so cheap.
No, it was for sale everywhere because so many developers, I knew a lot of them, and they did. They lost a lot of those properties. They couldn't sell them. They
couldn't do anything with them.
They had expensive loans on them, and
That's it. If they had any loans on them at all, their land was worth nothing. They were gone. So he said, I've been developing for 40 years. I'm retired, but I can't sit around and watch land be free, So he's like, can you raise money? I'm like, oh, I don't know. And so I get a syndication lawyer, and he's like, of course, you set up an LLC and people invest in it and you buy land and tell them what you're going to do with it. And they get a preferred return, or you split the profits, however you want to set that up. So we just raised millions of dollars and bought, let's see, one of the things he first came to us with was, one of the first things he came to us with was 4,200 lots in Tampa that had been $160 million in 2006 in escrow. It fell out, market collapsed. We bought it for 10 cents on the dollar, so 16 million. We have since redesigned it from golf course to like a crystal lagoon, so people can kind of paddleboard around the property. And that is our business plan there is just to sell lots to builders in bulk. And that's called the Murata now in Tampa. And of course, the timing is phenomenal right now to have that many lots for sale. Did you just barely start selling those, or when did you guys start selling those? It took, this is what I mean. Like, people don't understand how long it takes, especially with something that big, 4,200 lots. We wanted it to be magnificent. And so we had to change the entitlements from golf course to water. But I think we started selling off the lots last year. And then this year, of course, when COVID hit, it was like, uh-oh, did we mistime it? Yeah. Are we just like, every 10 years, you go through these cycles, or did we miss it? And then
this cycle went the other way. Real estate just got hotter and hotter, and people wanted to build more, and banks hadn't made bad loans. So that was good timing. And it was nice at Tampa and Tom Brady to win a Super Bowl. That probably didn't hurt.
Yeah. No, it's really good timing. We've done lots of things like that.
So how many cities do you have these developments and syndications going on? That's massive, 4,200. How many investors do you think were part of that?
That's the thing, is that because I had built this platform, I could have a lot of investors put in a little. So that's what I would tell them. I would have a $50,000 minimum. And, so it's hundreds of investors, which can be difficult to manage, but it's not that difficult these days. You just hold webinars, and you keep them on your list, and you put everything uploaded on the website and give them quarterly updates and occasional tours. They like to go out and see it. So a lot of investors. Yeah. But then I'll say, just put a little bit in because we're going to have another project in Park City. Let's, do that one. So put 50,000 in that one, put 50,000 in this one, spread it out, diversify.
Oh, just down the street from us here in Park City, Utah. Yeah.
Yeah. We have we're doing a development. We bought land years ago right next to what is now Woodward.
Yep.
The Action Center. So right when you're on the freeway, right before that, you'll see a little development there. And we're just coming online with that too. And the timing is
good.
Amazing.
That's good timing. Wow. Unbelievable. So for everybody listening who's dying, how can I work with Kathy? How can I get involved in her syndications? How can I do anything she's doing? What should we tell them?
Thank you. Real Wealth Network is our website. You can just get access to lots of free data on different cities, where jobs are moving, where we think there's a great opportunity. I mean, Utah is obviously one of the fastest growing place in the country, and had the best, employment over the last year. I mean, so
that we did.
Yeah. So we have this part on our website that basically talks about all the different locations that we really see great potential. And then the Real Wealth Show is my podcast. So realwealthnetwork.com and Real Wealth Show.
Wow. Unbelievable. So yeah, I'm on realwealthnetwork.com, guys, right now. If you're listening to this, write that down, pull it up on your phone or your computer, realwealthnetwork.com. She's got single family rentals in all of the hottest areas in the country listed there. She has group investments, syndications, land entitlement projects, land development projects, and investor resources, which is very important in terms of, everything. And it looks like you're just an absolute resource, and come work with you. I mean, that's kind of how it is. Yeah. It's not like one of those groups where, well, we need $25,000 for you to just be part of the group and to get some training. It doesn't seem like that's how you roll.
No, and not that we have anything against companies that do that.
Sure.
We just don't. And
yeah,
that's not our model. I just wanted to sort of always be the anti-guru, basically, that like come here, learn from others, and invest when you're ready. Invest when you've got enough education and you're ready.
Wow. Well, Kathy, I'm blown away. You're delivering so much value, but that's the thing people don't understand. When you deliver that much value, it comes back tenfold, and it seems like that's what it is. To come from, where you were a stay-at-home mom, you had this little radio show, you had this crazy moment in your life where everything could change for the worse, and you went and you cold called, and now you've built an empire and you've impacted so many lives. Like, it's just an amazing story. So if you're listening, go to realwealthnetwork.com and do whatever you can to be involved with Kathy and her husband Rich and the amazing network. And that's what it is, right? It's a network. And what do they say about your wealth? What does Rich Dad say about your network? Your net worth is your network, I think, is maybe somebody says that. Yep. And I think you've certainly found that to be true. And now just amazing. Well, Kathy, what else can we say? That's just an amazing story. And let's go to realwealthnetwork.com. And what's the final word of advice that you would give everybody someone who's just getting started?
Well, I don't want it to sound like it was easy and like I didn't make mistakes, because I probably made every possible mistake anyone could make. And I've only told you the good stuff. So I just want to let you know that people make mistakes. And, the most important thing is that you get out there. I would say you can avoid most of those mistakes by getting more education, but you can also end up not doing anything because you'll never be, so get your education and then start taking small baby steps, and know that if you have made mistakes in the past, that only makes you better, and you won't do that the next time around.
Amen. And anybody can, get involved with the syndications and different things and accredited investors, all those things through your website. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
All there.
Okay, perfect. Well, Real Wealth Network, we've been speaking with Kathy FETTKE, co-founder and co-CEO with her husband, Rich, of the Real Wealth Network. And Kathy, so we just want to thank you for dropping all these value bombs on the audience, and everybody will learn so much. You'll probably want to listen to this episode multiple times, and you'll definitely want to listen to your podcast. Tell us the name of your podcast again.
I have the Real Wealth Show where I still
Okay.
interview people, but I also have real estate news for investors. And that's where I give daily, like 5-minute news updates to keep everyone aware of where the market is, because it is changing constantly.
For sure. Okay, well, listen to our podcast, realwealthnetwork.com. And thank you so much for being on the show, Kathy.
Thank you so much for having me.
Are you looking for more seven-figure secrets, content, or even how you can launch your own recession-proof business? Then check out sevenfigures.com. That's the digit 7, FIGURES.com, where we share more videos, stories, strategies, funding solutions, entrepreneurial education, and even the secret business type that's recession-proof. Thank you for listening, and if you're finding value in our podcast, please give us a 5-star and invite others to join the club.